Well, good morning, Savannah, Georgia. Good morning, Chatham County. Good morning, Georgia, period. I am Jerome Irwin, president of the A. Philip Randolph Institute here in Savannah, Georgia. This morning, we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Chris Daniels with Georgia AFL-CIO. Good morning, Mr. Daniels. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Daniel with the Georgia AFL-CIO. I'm really happy to be here with you, Brother Irwin. I think this is a really important topic that we are going to be discussing today, and looking forward to inject whatever I can into the conversation. So thank you so much on behalf of everybody from the Georgia AFL-CIO. Thank you for having us.
Well, we are always glad to have our partners with us. We are an affiliated group of AFL-CIO, so we do what we can when we can. This morning, we want to talk about this new Hyundai plant that's coming to our area, and we understand that there have been some problems with the plant as far as where they previously had plant work done and working out of Alabama. Can you explain some of that to us?
Yeah. So right now, the state of Georgia, and I would even venture to say that the southeastern region is in a bit of an economic boom, and that's going to be centered around the electric vehicle industry. Here in Georgia, we have a meta plant, of course, in Bryan County, a Hyundai meta plant that will be a $5.8 billion investment into the area, into the state. Likewise, there is a larger EV industry that will be created to support the Hyundai plant, as well as other plants up and down the eastern coast. So Georgia is experiencing this. We're in this really interesting place right now, where we could really have good jobs coming into our state. But what we have found is that the industry hasn't been as responsive or responsible to the communities where they exist. For instance, you mentioned that in Alabama, Hyundai has been operating there, and evidence suggests that they haven't been really good community partners. And because of this, there's a group, along with Jobs to Move America, organizations throughout Alabama have banded together to try to see if there's a way to get some community benefit from this Hyundai being in the state of Alabama. We've heard there are lawsuits right now, a number of different. I won't speak on them, but there are a number of different lawsuits working themselves out. And there's just a lot more questions than answers when these facilities come to communities, typically poor Black and Brown communities. So I'm excited to engage in the conversation, and look forward to getting some more information out here.
All right. So with them doing what they're doing over there, what is the prime objective here? I know you were talking about community coalition. Explain a little bit about the community coalition, so my viewers know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So similar to what's happening in Alabama, right? Where they have come together as a community, a group of faith-based leaders, a group of community leaders, friends that are politicians. They've come together to create a plan that will ultimately get the community an agreement with these big companies that come sit in our neighborhoods. And these communities create a basic standard of what the companies should be doing for the communities that they exist in. For instance, if there are environmental need to be adhered to, if there are more planning related standards that need to be adhere to. If there's a standard of card check and neutrality at the end of this thing, those are the things that, for instance, our partners in Alabama are working towards, and those are similar to the type of agreements that we would aim to achieve here in the state of Georgia once we get our coalition all on the same page. So what we're doing now is speaking to organizations, faith-based organizations, no matter if you operate in a BIMA or in a MIMBAR. We want to make sure that, you're a pastor of a church, we want to make sure that we're engaging around what's important for communities related to this massive industry here. So, like I said, we've been having one-on-ones with organizations, and we are gearing up for a first meeting. So we're looking forward to getting everybody from in one room, one space to figure out where we go. Because the thing is, labor, we don't hold all the cards here, right? We are a part of a larger effort that includes the community. So we want to work with the community to make sure we can create some benefit. We're talking about these companies that could change communities for the foreseeable future.
Well, that's why A. Philip Randolph is the bridge between labor and community. When there are issues, we try to bring them to the forefront and try to get them handled. Now, I noticed you said something in your letter about a CBA, and I know what a CBA is, but can you explain it to our listening audience?
Yeah, so a community benefits agreement. I mentioned a bit earlier, but what community benefits agreements are? They are an agreement between, let's say, in the case of the Hyundai Meta plant in Bryan County. Let's say the community came up with Hyundai. They come together, sit down, talk about it. They come to an agreement and say, okay, we're going to have these basic standards created because of this agreement. So if it could be anything, like I said, if there's an environmental group that is attached to this organization that needs to happen around the environment, this is something that could be written into this agreement. Let's say if they want to keep a certain level of water runoff or whatever it might be, that's something that could be placed in this agreement. What labor typically wants to see community benefits agreements, we want to see card check and neutrality, meaning that once workers sign cards saying that they want to have a union, the manager, the Hyundai or whatever company it is, they will agree that these workers have to have a union, and they will be neutral when it comes to voting for it. So those are some of the things that you can get in CBA days. Now, I hope that answers your question a bit, Mr. Irwin.
Yes, sir, that answered it. Now, they said Hyundai is ultimately going to employ more than 20,000 workers. But how many workers are they talking about importing from Japan?
Well, you pose an important question, and these are the questions that haven't been answered. Because we don't have these agreements that say that this number of folks from this community where this plant is should be employed here. We don't know if there are any equity standards that set in place as far as employment is concerned. So you're totally right. The answer is we've seen insidious practices and folks get important the workforces before. And we just want to make sure that in Georgia, we respect the community by hiring folks capably, folks that we know are capable to work right from the community, hiring right from the community where these plants are. So, yeah, that's a big concern. And the answer is we don't know enough to answer one way or the other. That this will or won't happen, but we need those answers, and that's why we're pulling folks together so we can get the answers to the right questions.
All right. in Alabama, do you have any idea about how many Japanese they imported over there?
Not quite sure, because I while we do have a bit of a partnership, they are on their own track in Alabama. But the answer is I don't have a conclusive number about how many folks they have brought in. But what I do know is that when we sit these companies, so these major corporations and these big companies, a lot of times what we're seeing is they're sitting these companies, these facilities in neighborhoods that are poor, Black and brown, um, and they're not adhering to labor standards that we would hope that they would. So one thing that we can say is that the workers in the places, the workers in communities in these places where we have these manufacturing facilities have not benefited as much as they should.
We have heard, and like you said, it's nothing conclusive, but we've heard that they are going to import at least 2,500 of their own people. And in our area, housing is very critical. And we have a large homeless population, and housing is being built everywhere. Uh, but none of them is affordable housing for our people who are less fortunate or who just can't afford it. So how would we bring those people to the table?
Yeah, so I think we've been talking to several different community organizations that deal with housing, and that's one of the things that they talk about. Not just housing, but we have been talking to folks that deal with housing, and it's just one of the concerns that haven't been addressed in the communities where these plants are, right? Especially like in Bryan County, where the Meta plant, where Hyundai's Meta plant is. There have just not been enough conversation. There has not been enough conversation with the community to say that we feel that there's a plan around housing, and that's another reason why we're bringing this group together. We have one of folks on our team is she's a planner, a city planner by trade, and we had these same conversations recently. There's just not enough information to know. And from our conversations that we've had with folks around in the surrounding community, they haven't Hyundai and nobody has been responsive to the community to talk about these infrastructure needs and what will happen with housing. How will water runoff be impacted? How will our streets be impacted? The community's investing a lot, but they're not getting a lot in return at this point. So that's why we are pulling the community together to make sure that we get some return on our investment at this Hyundai plant.
Well, we already know that there have been some complaints already with the construction going on. And we're hoping that we can get some of those people to attend the meeting along with the other people that we have coming up. That meeting is also scheduled for not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday. That's the 16th, I think it is. Am I right or am I wrong? Because I'm not looking at a calendar.
I think that we had something. I'll have to get you I can get you a conclusive date. I don't want to speak out of turn here and without having my calendar in front of me, but I will get you a conclusive date. I'm sorry about that, Mr. Irwin.
Right, no problem. I should have had it in front of me. And for some reason, my calendar's not showing up. But anyway, oh, there it goes. There it goes. Next Tuesday will be the 22nd. That will be the 22nd. We're scheduled to have a meeting with the ministers here and a few more of the community leaders. So That will be held here, right here in Savannah, Georgia, at the Con Ed building. So we'll be looking forward to hosting that meeting and trying to gain some headway so that we can move forward. Uh, at this point, what do you think would be, what would you suggest from community leaders to do?
Well, the first thing that I would suggest is that we're gonna come knocking and we're gonna have a first meeting. So the first thing that I would do, because we want to develop what this strategy looks like. I think we want to develop this as a collective group. So the first thing that we need to do is make sure that we're all in the room together, so we can get this, so we can start to have a meeting of the minds, and then we'll have a better idea about what to do from there. But the first thing we need to do is get together at the table. The second thing that people can do right now, our family, our brothers and sisters, our family in Alabama, dealing with the Hyundai plant right now, have a letter that they are looking for signers on. I've shared that letter with you, Mr. Irwin, and I'd be happy to share it with anybody who'd like to look at it. But one thing that we can do right now is support our family in Alabama as they engage in their own discourse with Hyundai around community benefits. So that's the thing. Those are the two things. When we knock on your door, please be receptive to that first meeting, so that we can have a meeting of the minds between all of our different organizations. And then the second thing that we can do right now is get that letter signed, get your organization to sign on in support of our family, the Alabama Coalition for Community Benefits. We can sign on to that letter. Those are the two things right now that would be most important. Because this thing, this thing is looking like it's going to be a campaign that that'll take some time. So we're going to have to develop it together, and then move together on it.
All right. Let us take a quick break, and we'll be right back to finish off this conversation. All right, we're right back. And I tell you, I don't think we have a problem signing off on this letter. I think it'll be beneficial for everyone. Uh, but now we've talked about Hyundai, but we also got another problem, and that's what's that, Delta, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, well, right now we have opportunities across the state to make sure that workers have good jobs, and work with dignity. Right, we have an opportunity right now at Delta to organize more than 20,000 workers just in Georgia, and many more across the country. And the thing that's happening right now that's encouraging with the Delta organizing campaign is that we are seeing the type of synergy, the type of teamwork like never before. And so it's something that's actually multi-union organizing is something that we haven't seen a lot of throughout the years, because we could be quite territorial at times, but what we are now understanding as organized labor is that we're much stronger together than we are apart, and unions are coming together to fight these fights together in the face of some overwhelming opposition. Delta is one of the most well-regarded companies in the South. But when you talk to workers on the ground, you understand that while Delta can be a good job, workers need representation there. So right now, those unions are working to make sure that they could get to a union election and win it. And we understand. I'm sure you and I understand, and I'm going to explain to the public now that when unions are at these companies, our communities do better. We pay more. We get more respect at work. We stress less. So we want to make sure that we support them in any way. And one way the audience can support is just talking to one of your cousins or family members that work for Delta and tell them, hey, call the union and talk to them in a real way about why you all should be organizing for power. So the Delta campaign is a tremendous opportunity for us right now to gain some traction. And just some of the things that folks are doing, like some of our retirees are right now planning to come in and call Delta workers, because they understand how important it is for those workers to hear from folks who have been there and done it, folks who know the union difference, folks who've worked with dignity and respect. So, like I said, we are experiencing incredible level of synergy throughout labor right now, and not just labor, because at our last Delta rally, I mean, we had over 200 people there, but it was folks from the community, it was folks from labor, different labor organization, multiple different labor organizations. It was folks from community organizations. So folks are working together, and across the country, workers are saying that they want to be in a union more now than we've seen in a long time. So workers are now ready to fight back and stand up, and they're getting organized all across the place. I mean, but we talk about Delta, right? Yeah, but that's just one of the opportunities here. We saw that in recently that Bluebird workers in the Macon area, 1,400 Bluebird workers just got organized. After years of trying to figure out what they could do to impact their lives and their jobs, they figured it out. They could organize their own union, and that's what they did. We got bus drivers in Dalton, Georgia, who with first with a private company. Yes, sir, with a private company there, who just got organized with the ATU. So so just organizing is exploding around the state, around our region, and around the country. And we want to be on the forefronts of seeing this revolution happen, this new revolution happen in labor. So Delta is definitely an opportunity that we have right now to add 20,000 new union members right here in the state of Georgia. And so we're going to be calling out. And one thing that we're doing now with the Delta campaign, we're going to be reaching out to organizations, just as we are with Hyundai, because we know that it's going to take a complete community effort to make sure that these workers get the dignity and respect that they're looking for by organizing their union. So we're going to be calling out to folks in the faith communities, in our community organizations, our allied organizations. We're going to be calling on you to jump into this Delta fight as well. So just look for it.
All right. Well, when you talked about bus drivers, we have organized bus drivers here in Savannah.
That's right.
But, for our listeners' purpose, they're probably saying, well, why are we talking about unions? The reason we're talking about unions is because unions strengthen the community. it gives you a better chance of making a better living for yourself. And if you can make a better living for yourself, then you can come out and do something that will be different and help change the outlook of things in your life or your children's lives and your grandchildren's lives. I applaud Chris because Chris is a young man compared to me, and they're bringing younger people into the labor fight. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Chris?
Yeah. Well, we first of all, we value everything that folks in your generation have done to help chart this course for labor, because without the work that's been done prior to us, we wouldn't be able to even be engaged in this fight right now. But you're absolutely right. Uh, Workers are especially young workers are understanding. They know that when they have a union contract, when they have a union, when they have a voice on the job, they know that communities tend to do better. And you're exactly right. We've seen over the last 30, 40 years um, a decline in the middle class. But in that time, what we have also seen is a decline in labor participation, labor union participation, and labor union density. So we see a natural decline. When we see our numbers in labor shrinking, we also see that number of middle class families shrink. So we understand that there's a correlation between us having power and having a voice on the job, and like you said, our communities doing better. And that's the reason that they're organizing right now in Georgia at really high numbers, just because of that reason.
We have been fighting the fight for last few years, or the fight for 15, with our fast food industry.
Mm-hmm.
And some people think it's over with, but the fight is not over with. We still in the fight, and that would give organizing the fast food industry and making them accountable for their employees. And we recently, here in Savannah, we had a group of restaurant workers that went out on strike. So everybody's looking to better themselves, and we need to continue and looking for support. You can always find support if you just look for any union. A union will give you the support you need.
Mm-hmm. But and even more in the union, because we talk about the union like it's this thing, this foreign thing that comes in and it's like a superhero that comes in, but that's nothing like what a union is, right? When you're really talking about what a union is a worker standing together with their coworker, saying that, hey, we're not taking what you're given. We're going to have a voice here, and we are going to negotiate. We're going to come to agreements. We're not just going to take what you give us. But a union can't do it just by saying that they're a union. The union has to have folks who are willing to put a little bit of skin in the game. You got to put some sweat equity in there sometimes. Sometimes you got to knock on a door. Sometimes you got to go talk to somebody who can impact your work. Sometimes you got to go to a rally. You got to come to a union meeting. But the union is just that. It is workers coming together with their coworkers to have an organization that that fights for them to have a voice on the job. So it's not this third kind of party type, a third party type of deal. It's you and your coworkers getting it together and building some power. So just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, well, first of all, like you said, uh, a union is no stronger than its members, and when your members come together, and there's a strong, very strong union. They can do a lot of good things now, and a lot of people say, well, unions they make bad people. No, unions don't make bad people. Uh, if you got the right union, you got the right representation, then you if you're wrong, you're wrong. But if you're right, they fight for you to the end.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
been on both ends. Uh, Tell us a little bit more about the Georgia AFL before we get out of here.
Okay. Okay. Sure. So I guess in general, I'll start just by saying a little bit about the AFL-CIO in general, and then I'll come back down to the Georgia AFL-CIO. So the AFL-CIO, it exists to represent people who work. I mean, I can explain it. And I guess a better explanation comes from the Constitution. It is expressed in our Constitution at the AFL-CIO. And it says that the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organization is an expression of the hopes and of the working people of America. And what we do at the Georgia AFL as well is we resolve to fulfill the yearning justice and community, to advance individual and associational freedom, to vanquish oppression, privatization, and cruelty in all their forms, and to join with all persons of whatever nationality or faith who cherished the cause of democracy and the call of solidarity to great achievement. So, and I don't want to deviate from that explanation because it states it so well what we do. We work for working folks. So, but I guess more practical though, the Georgia AFL-CIO, we are a state federation that has more than 60 affiliated unions under our banner. And what we do, we come together. We work for those unions to make sure that we fight labor fights. So whether that be legislative, whether that be a need for more training, the Georgia AFL is made up of groups of unions that want to come together to have a greater impact. And the way that they have that impact is to make sure that they have a state body that can address labor needs at a state level and even at the federal level in some instances.
All right. There is an organization called Savannah Regional Central Labor Council, in which I
So,
am the vice president, and we are part of the Georgia AFL-CIO, and we try to do things on with the local legislation, and we've been somewhat successful in some things, but we haven't been able to get everything we need. Um, we also have the Builders and Trades Union in here, and I think that they are going to be a major part. They need to be a major part of our talks when we talk about Hyundai.
yep, and they have been. I'm glad you mentioned the regionals, the CLCs, the Central Labor Councils, because in the state of Georgia, you mentioned the Savannah CLC, which you're a part of, but there's the Augusta CLC. There's also we're working on some other CLCs getting up and running as well. So there are a number of different CLCs throughout the state that all do the same thing. And what we do is just fight for working folks day and night. And you mentioned the trades as well. And yeah, the trades have been in those talks about Hyundai actually, because what's happening right now at Hyundai is that they are building right now. If you go up down 16, you'll notice a 2-mile stretch where it's nothing but construction, and that is the Hyundai Meta plant. But the problem with that work is that most of the work that's happening out there right now is non-union. We do have some union family in there, but they only got in after a contractor kept tearing up material, so they had to call the pros in. So that's why we're coming together, and yeah, that's why the trades are, like you said, the trades are right lockstep with with those conversations, because they understand that, look, while they're building right here, they're just building here, and maybe they have missed the opportunity for some work there, but we talked about it earlier that there's a $2 billion industry that will exist here just to supply that one plant. So it's not over. The building trades can still get a lot of this work that's coming up in Georgia around EV, and that's some of the reasons why why they're coming together with us as well.
Yes, sir. I tell you, when you think about it, and you think about all the things you've done, like you said, we got in there, but that's how in this area that we usually make a lot of our money, because they'll let somebody else build it. And then when it tears up, then they'll call the pros in to come get it and fix it. And then when we come fix it, then they look, well, we should have did this from Jump Street. Yeah, you should have did it from Jump Street. But cheap labor ain't always cheap.
Oh yeah,
do it twice.
Cheap labor ain't good, and good labor ain't cheap.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
We're gonna take another quick break and let our sponsors have a word or two, and we'll be right back to wind this thing up in just a few minutes. All right, we're back. And we're back again saying we've had a good conversation going here today. Uh, Chris, on most of the construction sites in our area, if you ride by, you can't find Chatham County tags. It's a shame. We, the A. Philip Randolph Institute, have a program we call Building Futures, where we take high school students that are not going to college, because all students aren't going to college when they graduate. We take them and try to put them in apprentice programs. But without jobs, where are we going to put them? And we've been able to put a few people on to work, and they went in as apprentices. Now they are journeymen, and they're making a decent living for themselves. Some of them above average. And this is the kind of thing that I say that makes unions important in our neighborhood. Because if we can put people to work and do what's necessary for them and give them an education without having to go and pay and get in financial debt, then that's a good thing. So we're going to let you wrap it up with your comments, and then if you stick around just a minute, we'll talk to you a little bit more. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that, Brother Jerome. Thank you so much for having me. And and I won't be long wrapping this thing up, but I do want to say that this Hyundai project has the ability to really alter our communities for the better. Um, However, if we don't take action, I think it could also do the opposite. We've seen that sometimes these jobs come in, and while they do give us a boost, right? $13.50. Some of that's good, right? But it's not what these workers deserve. You're putting your life on the line. Sometimes you're putting your life on the line. Died in the construction phase of some of these projects. So workers are putting on the line for these companies, and what we have to ensure is that these companies are responsible to communities where they operate. And the only way that we're going to do that is, like I mentioned, we're going to have to take action, and that's why we're together as the community to make sure that our workers in Georgia get some real, not just the workers in Georgia, communities around these facilities truly benefit, not just with the job that's going to break them down and hang them out to dry, but truly benefit with the job that, like you said, can change your life, can start to change communities. And that's what we see as the end point here, is us working to make sure that this massive industry doesn't chew community. They bring communities up, just as these companies are going to benefit. So that's what we're working for, and that's what we will do when we get together with like-minded folks. So I do appreciate you letting me love to just put my email out there, just so folks can get. If you have any questions, not just about Hyundai, but about the vast number of things that state. I'm just thinking about right now, utility workers just organized here. We got the World Cup coming up, so there are tremendous opportunities for us here as workers and as community here in Georgia. But some of these opportunities will pass us up if we're not vigilant, and not just vigilant, but if we don't take action. So if you'd like to take action, if you'd like to join a union, please call me. If you'd like to get involved in this Hyundai discussion around Delta, please give me a call or shoot me an email. My number is 432-629-88. Again, 404-326-2988. And my email is Chris@Georgia Unions. That's Chris at GeorgiaUnions.org, GeorgiaUnions.org. I'm looking forward to talking to anybody who'd like to get involved. So thank you so much again, brother Jerome Irwin, for having me on. Looking forward to the next conversation.
Well, we thank you, Chris. It has been a pleasure to have you. Like I said, it's a bigger pleasure for me to see a younger person taking the leadership role. It has been my desire to bring up younger folk and train them up so that they get know and be ready to take the leadership. We're not going to be here always, and when we leave, we got to leave a legacy for somebody. And looking at you doing what you're doing, it makes great for all of us. We've got a couple of more people that we've got in leadership position. So it is getting better. A lot of the old hands want to hold on to their positions, like they can't do without it. When they retire, they can retire. Most of them can retire, but they just won't retire. So we thank you for taking the leadership role in this. We again, the vulnerable community here in Savannah, Georgia. We look to see y'all every Tuesday at 10 a.m. And with that being said, we're gonna say good evening, God bless, and may all y'all be blessed. Good night, y'all. Good evening. Good afternoon. Wherever you're looking at it at. All right.
All right. See you later.
like that.